Hey guys, what's up? This is Helicopter RC. I've had a couple questions as well, but I've been reading forum posts and some other stuff online. People were having trouble saving the trim settings for their double horse 9116, 9117. I believe, I don't know, it's a 9113 is the 3-channel or anything else that runs off this type of transmitter, the 2.4 gigahertz system. It's kind of a pain in the ass to do it. If you've been flying for a while and you're used to a more sophisticated transmitter, then it's really not bad, which is the case with me, how I figured it out. If you're starting off new, that's probably where your issues are, since the terminology you might not be familiar with, and the directions were kind of a Chinglish translation, and they're really hard to follow. I'm not going to get into detail too much about the terminology, but I'll show you how to get this basically set up to save your settings. This one, I actually modded it so that it saves the quick sub-trim settings. So basically what these are going to be your fine sub-trim settings. So say you're in flight, basically everything is saved the way you want it, but you know, it's a little bit windy, or it's just kind of your tail motor starting to crap out on you, so it's starting to turn to the left a little bit. So you sub-trim it, say to the right. See, now you can see it saved on the remote. Now what people's issues are is when they shut this off and turn it back on, these basic trims right here, your in-flight trims, are going to reset. See? It resets. I'll go into the mods on this transmitter later in another video. So basically what you want to do, if you can see this, I'm sorry this isn't in HD, it takes way too long to upload. You're going to have 4 buttons here. One says menu, one says select. On the left here it says up, and this one says down. So what you want to do to get into your mode settings, if we're here in America, most people fly in mode 2, which is what mine came in, mine too, my 916 and 917 came in standard. You're going to hold down this menu button. It'll light up. You'll now have the mode button flashing. This basically, if you hit up and down, you can change it from mode 1 and mode 2. Stay in mode 2. If you're in America, otherwise you're weird and you want to use mode 1, that's fine, it's your preference. So once you have the mode button flashing, there's two types of trims you're going to want to do to this. We're going to start off with the first one. So once you have the mode flashing, you want to hit menu. That'll start flashing. You can see elevator is flashing here, and your sub trim is flashing here. Sub trim is the first thing you're going to want to do. Basically what sub trim is, it's the same as doing these fine trims right here, except you can set it to a designated number, and when you turn the remote, the transmitter off, the settings will be saved inside. So you don't have to reset it every single time you do it. And if there's a little bit of differential in the air or wind, you can do your fine settings here, but always have your basic settings trimmed. So we have sub trim flashing and elevation. So the elevator, elevator, not elevation. Elevator is going to be, a lot of people mix that up with throttle. On this in mode 2, your left side right here is going to be your throttle. Throttle is your up and down, meaning it gives your helicopter lift to come off the ground, or you can slow the throttle down, which is going to slow the rotation on the rotors, and it will descend. Elevator is actually going to be your forward. You're banking forward for elevation, forward elevation, or you're banking rear for rear elevation. So that's going to be your forward and back motion. Now this one I don't really have trimmed. I think I might have it trimmed for that 9116 over there. I have several of these double horse remotes right now because I have a lot of them laying around. But basically, so once you have the elevator and sub-trim flashing, you can use your up and down here on the left side to adjust it. This is right now set at, I believe, rear 100. It's going to be starting at 0. 0 is going to be your factory setting. You're probably going to want this if you're running with all the stock equipment with the decorative bars on it and the the vertical stabilizer and such, you're probably going to want, if you're running this outside, it's going to be different indoors. If you're running it outside, you're probably going to want it about a 40 forward sub trim on the elevator, just to give it a little bit of forward flight to help you fly into the wind. I have mine set at basically rear 100. How you'll know if you're going forward or rear, right down here there's a little B that's flashing. The B I'm assuming stands for back, and when you push it the other way and it goes past zero in the other direction, it's going to have an F for forward. I have it at rear because the helicopter I have now, I have the canopy off and a bunch of parts off it, so I needed to rebalance it for flying it indoors. So that's pretty simple, guys. Once you have that set to where you want it, well, let me just say it's gonna be some trial and error before you get it exactly. So just kind of start low and work your way up. You're probably gonna run through 2 or 3 batteries, and you always want to try to trim it indoors if possible. But once you have your forward and rear balance set correctly, again, that's going to be your front motion and your rear motion. You're going to go ahead down here and hit select. That's going to move it down to AILE. That's going to be your aileron control, which means, which is not turning. That's your rudder. It's going to be your right and left drift. How about we say drift? That's going to, aileron is really an airplane term rather than a helicopter term, but just kind of got transferred over. But in aviation, let's just say we're going to be drifting, so it's going to be your side, or your strafe, even for those who play, shooter video games. It's going to be your strafe, your side strafe. I have mine on this one set at 70 R, which is going to be your right. And once you go past 0 and go the other way, this R is going to turn into an L. So you're going to be knowing which way you're having it offset. Mine, because of the way that the battery, I have an upgraded battery, it had constant left drift. So I counteract that by putting this up to 70. So I get right drift and it balances it. Basically what you want to do is be able to have your helicopter hovering indoors without too much input on the transmitter, and have it, at least for a few seconds, have a stable flight without drifting off in one direction. And to do this, you really need a perfectly calm air, no air conditioning, nothing, no breeze. You need it perfect. And that's how you want to trim this up. So once you have that set, so basically now you're going to have your forward and rear motion set, balanced, and your right and left drift balance set. You can go ahead, and that will automatically save when you hit select. So now you hit select again. This is going to be your throttle sub trim. I would keep that at 0. That's going to be the control of how much pressure you need. Say you come up on the stick here to right about here, and the blades, the helicopter doesn't fire up, the rotors aren't even engaging until about here. You could adjust your throttle so that it kicks in at an earlier point. The problem is if you put this too high, it's going to take off by itself even when this is down. So I leave mine at 0. Mine was set pretty well. Once you have that set, hit select again. Now your rudder sub is going to be flashing. This is going to be your turning, your left and right turning. I have mine set at 90. I actually had right now I have a bad tail motor from constant flights. I've had probably about 40 flights, 20 flights on this one. No, about 40 flights, about 20 on the 9117. So about 40 flights on that. The motor's starting to go. I ordered a replacement. It hasn't come here. So you can see I have to offset it a lot to get it to not turn left and right. You want it to be, once you get off the ground, hover without going this way, that way, turning, or forward and back. A little bit of forward drift is what you want. You don't want it to be coming backwards. If anything, you always want it to be drifting away from you, and make sure when you test this out, you always have the tail facing you and not the nose. Now, as you adjust these, say you have your aileron set, as you adjust the rudder, it might change the way your aileron's behaving. So as you change each characteristic of the sub trim, you might have to go back and do slight adjustments to the other ones until it balances, because changing one thing is going to adjust how the swash plate sits. Basically, you want to have the swash plate as level as possible, maybe a little bit forward tilt. When you're looking at the helicopter, once everything's trimmed in, once you have it powered on and it binds, it should be pretty much level, and you might have to adjust it by hand a couple of clicks by rotating the threads. on the arms. So once you have that done, say you're ready to go. What I would do first, hold the menu button down until nothing's flashing anymore. Now the problem is, if you start setting these and you don't hold the menu button down when you're done and you just turn it off, none of those are gonna save. So before you're ready to power your remote down, if you want to save the settings, you have to hold the menu button until nothing's flashing. So now we're gonna go back in, hold menu down again. Mode's flashing. You want to press menu again. Now we have SubTrim flashing. Click it again. You have Elevator DR flashing. Click it again. Now you have Elevator REV flashing. You want to come down here to EPA. Basically, EPA, in simple terms, for those of you who are new, is going to be your limit on your servo arms, on the throw of the servo arms. So that means we're going to use, this is not the 9116 or the 9117, we're going to use this is the Helios 100. It's just easier to look at here with the camera. If you look at these servo arms, this right now on mine is set to 120. That is the maximum that the TX is going to actually allow you to do. By default, they're all set at 100. That means by setting at 120, it adjusts the throw so that the throw can actually go beyond what it's designed for. So say you're going full elevator forward, it's going to push the servo arms up to a certain amount. If you move it to 120, it's going to go just a little bit more. Now the problem is, if you have it set, mine set at 120, I actually had a servo arm go bad, and I think it's because, this was after 30 flights or so. I think it's because I was pushing the servo arm beyond where it was supposed to be going. But with these helicopters, the parts are so cheap, it's like $2 to replace that, so it's not really a big deal. So basically what you want to do is set all your EPA settings, which is going to control the throw of your servos, to 120%. This is going to allow you that when you go full elevator forward, instead of just being, it's going to give you more of an aggressive pitch, aggressive feel. You're going to be able to go faster forward, go faster backwards, go faster, your left and right aileron drift, and even your rudder too. So go ahead and set. I'll just readjust the camera here, I'm sorry. Okay, so right now we have elevator EPA. That's going to be your forward and backwards motion. We're going to set that right now to 120, the maximum it will allow. Next, we're going to hit select again and go down to aileron EPA. 120. Select again, rudder EPA. There is no throttle. That always stays at what it stays at. This is basically going to be your forward, backwards, left and right drift, and left and right turning. Go ahead and set that 120. Now let's go ahead and make sure everything's set at 120. We will hit our mode button again. Go back to the SubTrim. Make sure all our SubTrims save. We have elevator at our rear 100, aileron at 70 right, throttle at 0, rudder at 90 right. Hold menu down. That's it. That's it, guys. Your settings are saved. I apologize for this video being so lengthy. I just wanted to describe in best detail I could. For those of you who are new, you can follow along with the video. Then again, once you have it in the air, you might have some different conditions. Maybe when you tested it, there was a little bit of a breeze that it's something that you don't want to spend the time to try to get in precise. This is only going to give you a basic precision. And then you have up here with these trim controls, this is basically like your fine-tuning. So you're going to get it set the best you can down here, and then because of the changing variables, depending on your flying conditions, or your battery power could be draining, and you're getting a little bit of left. You're going to sometimes when the battery gets low, your rudder is going to change, where it's going to start turning in one direction or something. You can adjust that with these, and these settings don't save. So basically, you readjust these every flight, but you shouldn't really need to too much unless the variables are changing. That's pretty much it with this TX, guys. in case you didn't know, this is basically your fast and slow, quote-unquote, switch. S and Q, I'm going to assume that Q means quick and S means slow. It's basically like an indoor mode. It's like to beginning fly makes everything less sensitive. Set from standard, the S for slow or small is set at 40% of the maximum throw for the servos, which we now have at 120. So now it's going to be even slower than it was capable of. And when you move up to Q, or quick, or whatever it stands for, you're going to have maximum servo throw, which means you have full control over the servo. You can actually, the settings we just showed you are going to save for both modes here, and you can actually go ahead and change them if you want to have different settings for each mode. You can do that. Say you wanted to have you could even change this, this is set at 40 and this one's set at the maximum, but you could even change this one to maximum and this one to maximum and just set one EPA mode maybe a little bit more aggressive than the other. Say you wanted to try doing some stunt flying, or just basically you're at a park doing some park flying. You could switch between those two modes. So it's really about how you want to have your setup. Mine, I have it set up the standard way, where the S is the 40% and the Q is the full. When you are trimming it, I would keep it, if you're used to flying these, I would keep it in the fast mode so that you can get it set proper for outdoors. So that's it, guys. If you have any questions about this remote, let me know. I appreciate you if you made it completely through this video without falling asleep or shooting yourself in the face. That's awesome. Let me know, guys, if you have any other problems, questions regarding these double horses or any other reviews of the helicopters I have. And as always, happy flying.